Hello everybody and welcome to the Human Echoes Rundown. When you watch this, I'm gonna be on a boat, which means I won't be able to watch the new releases coming to theaters this week, but I didn't want to miss a week. And there's a movie that a lot of people have been talking about on the internet that I decided to take a look at. We're gonna be talking about Netflix's original movie, iBoy. This is a movie about a superhero who is also a cell phone. And 90% of the attention this movie's getting is based on how ridiculous that premise is. And I gotta say, I am not 100% against the idea. I think it's a little bit silly, yes. However, going into this, I thought to myself, I don't hate this idea, right? There are a lot of really silly superhero origin stories. You know, Spider-Man got bit by a radioactive spider. The Hulk got essentially blasted by a nuke. You know, these things don't make sense in actual science, but you can kind of put it together in your head and sort of justify it under the, fun comic book logic kind of rationale for movies. However, when you see a concept like iBoy, you would assume that it's aimed at your sort of 10 to 13-year-old crowd, the tweens, the YouTube vlog fans, the sort of people who are always glued to their phones. Okay, yes, us adults are glued to our phones all the time too, but you know what I'm saying, the people who get crap for it because they're young and we can give them crap for it. I thought this movie was going there. I thought it was going to be a relatively lighthearted, silly kind of concept aimed at the younger crowd. I mean, because the kid's in high school, right? He gets bombarded with cell phone rays in his brain, that also pieces of cell phone in his head, and he becomes a cell phone, and wouldn't that be great? Yay! You could tweet so fast. But this movie, the tone of it does not match up with the concept. Like, if you're gonna make a concept like this work, right, you need to have sort of a fun tone. You need to be taking yourself not super seriously, and this movie takes itself super seriously. I mean, it has issues like gang violence, like legit gang violence, not like, oh, I have some bullies in my school, like real gangs selling drugs and beating people up and raping people, which is also a thing that happens in this movie that's kind of squicky. I mean, we've had a lot of conversations about rape and how it's portrayed in movies and televisions in the last several years, and I am not someone who thinks that there's never a place for that as a plot element, but this movie uses it in a very sort of, well, the girl got raped and now the guy has to go rescue and revenge her because she was the girl he liked and now somebody else had sex with her. Grr. Which, A, is sort of demeaning to the female character, played by Maisie Williams. Her name is Lucy in the movie, who gets almost nothing to do but sit around and mope about how she got raped. She does have a little bit of agency towards the end, but very, very much not her story. And B, it makes iBoy seem like kind of a selfish jerk, because his motivation in this is not to clean up the streets and bring justice to his block and like really make things better for everything. It's revenge. It's getting back at these people that raped his wannabe girlfriend. Like, he wanted her to be his girlfriend and he was never brave enough, and there's the whole thing at the beginning there, but like he never at any point in the movie is acting out of anything like selflessness, okay? And I understand that there need to be some personal stakes in a superhero story, right? You know, Batman did see his parents get gunned down in front of him. Spider-Man, you know, his Uncle Ben is killed by, you know, a robber, but their quests are not to go and beat up that person, right? Like, Spider-Man does not become Spider-Man. In the movies, he kind of does, to go and get, you know, the guy who killed Uncle Ben, but it's like he doesn't get to do that. That's not what drives him. He's like, I realize that there is crime in the city and I can't turn my back on it anymore. This comes across as a lot more personal and a lot more selfish on the part of iBoy. In addition to that, you have iBoy's power, which is essentially tapping into people's phones and eavesdropping. And he eavesdrops on whoever he feels like. Now, arguably, it's difficult for him to turn this off. Okay, so I don't want to come down too hard on this, but we are kind of living in like an increasingly surveillance state where people are spying on us for our own good. And, you know, they're only doing it to the bad guys, right? Like, they're not going to use the information against us good people. They just want to get the bad guys. And it's fitting that it takes place in England, where a lot of this stuff is already happening a lot, and in America it's sort of under the covers, but just barely. Like, we know that it's going on here as well. And as someone who's not really cool with that, the idea of a superhero whose superpower is I can listen in on anybody's phone conversation and frame people. He does other stuff too, but like, that's where it starts. And it's kind of a little bit uncomfortable for me to ever get on board with really cheering for that. On the plus side, I mentioned earlier that Maisie Williams' character Lucy doesn't have a lot to do in the movie. However, Maisie Williams brings the fire to this role. She really brings a lot of life to the character in a way that the script kinda doesn't. The way she portrays this girl and her dealing with the aftermath of this sexual assault and sort of meeting up with iBoy, and, you know, there's the whole sort of comedy of errors where she doesn't know that iBoy is Tom, and iBoy is using his magical iPhone powers to sort of try to find out what the deal is and if she's interested in Tom. And dude, Tom, grow a spine and ask this girl out. For serious, you're gonna be a superhero? But that's a whole separate issue. But the point is, Maisie Williams brings a lot to this role. She really brings it to life, and I was super impressed with that. The other really great performance in this movie, and really one of its saving graces, comes from a guy named Rory Kinnear, who plays the ultimate bad guy that iBoy is hunting down. And he comes in the last 20 or maybe 30 minutes of the movie. He doesn't have a ton of screen time, but he is awesome. He plays an amazing bad guy, the kind of person you absolutely believe could be in charge of this kind of drug-running cartel, sort of built it up from the ground level on this, you know, sort of London city block, and now he's pretty powerful, and he's a real legitimate force for iBoy to reckon with. And you can almost, by that point in the movie, forgive iBoy, because even if he is at that point acting to save his own skin, he's acting to save himself from a real bad dude. Just a wonderfully slimy and calculating Rory Kinnear and Maisie Williams essentially save the movie. The other thing the movie has going for it is a really great visual style. It's very competently put together. The colors are okay. The way iBoy's power is portrayed is interesting. I don't know that it's what I would have done, but it's not terrible. And it adds something cool and visual to the movie. So it's not a complete failure. There are some really interesting themes in here too, about how poverty breeds violence and how you just sort of come up in that world, and, you know, you sort of live in it like a fish lives in water and don't really notice it until it finally strikes you. And so there's an argument to be made for iBoy from that angle, but it just doesn't quite cohere in a way that I was comfortable with. There was a lot of stuff that just did not work for me, and that was disappointing, because I was really willing to get on with the concept. I was willing to sort of get on board and say, okay, what have you got for me? And ultimately, I think the biggest problem the movie has is it doesn't really know who it's for. It's taking this tween young adult style concept of having a phone stuck in your head and putting it in a really gritty, if it was in theaters, R-rated package. And that just doesn't work. It doesn't ever cohere together really well. Anyway, guys, that's what I thought of iBoy. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click the like button, subscribe to our channel. If you had other thoughts, feel free to hop on and leave them in the comments. I'd love to know what you guys thought of this movie. Until next week, I'm Albert, and I'm on a boat. We'll see you guys next week with another Human Echoes Rundown.